Syria considers the ambassadors of USA and Turkey, in addition to a number of Western diplomats, as persona non grata. Russia and China renew their opposition of any foreign intervention in Syria. Al-Naksa anniversary is an event which motivates citizens of occupied Golan to continue struggle to liberate their land. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to our news for today. An official source at the Foreign and the Expatriates Ministry has declared that some countries recently notified our diplomatic missions and members of our embassies that they were persona non grata. And in accordance with the principle of reciprocity, the Syrian Arab Republic has decided to consider the following foreign ambassadors and diplomats as persona non grata. American Ambassador Robert Ford, who is currently in his country for consultations. British Ambassador Simon Collis, who is currently in his country for consultations. British diplomat Chancellor Stephen Heke. Swiss Ambassador Martin Eschbacher. Turkish Ambassador Omar Onhan and all members of the Turkish embassy in Damascus, whether diplomats or administrative staff. French Ambassador Eric Chevalier, French diplomat Second Secretary Omier Danville, Italian Ambassador Achille Emirio, Spanish Ambassador Julio Alve, Spanish diplomat Chancellor Jorge de Locas Cadenas, Belgian Charge d'Affaires Ernest Kenes, Bulgarian Charge d'Affaires Dmitry Mikhailov, Bulgarian diplomat Third Secretary Stuel Zlaske, German military charge d'affaires Owe Bitschneider, German assistant military charge d'affaires Carsten Haraweve, German assistant attaché Mike Minon George Michael Gruman, Canadian embassy charge d'affaires and all members of the embassy, whether diplomats or administrative staff. The source added that the Syrian Arab Republic believes in the importance of dialogue based on the principles of equality and mutual respect among states, and that diplomacy is a necessary means for communication among states in order to resolve conflicts. The source added that Syria hopes those countries which started such steps would embrace the same principles so that the relations between the two sides would come back to normal again. China and Russia have reiterated opposition to any foreign intervention in Syrian affairs. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesman Liu Weimin said Beijing and Moscow were in close contact with regard to the Syrian crisis and believed there should be an immediate halt of violence in Syria. Liu stressed China's conviction that political dialogue should start as soon as possible. The Chinese ambassador to the UN, Mr. Li Bo-dong, has called for offering full support and cooperation to Kofi Annan's efforts and for opposing any word or action against such efforts, as his mission represented the main channel for a political solution to the crisis in Syria. In a press conference at the UN headquarters, Li Bo-dong said the political solution to the crisis in Syria was passing through a decisive stage. He urged support for the UN monitors mission in the country and for ensuring the Syrian government's and opposition's full and immediate implementation of Annan's plan according to the principles of objectivity, integrity and balance, with the abandonment of all forms of violence and the beginning of a political process as soon as possible. Concerning Al-Hula massacre, Bo-dong said China strongly condemned it and called for a comprehensive investigation, pointing out that the event affirmed the earnest need of the halt of violence in Syria and the implementation of Annan's plan.
And a political process to
Chinese and Russian Presidents Hu Jintao and Vladimir Putin started in Beijing today the Chinese-Russian summit talks on bilateral relations and the next summit of Shanghai Cooperation Organization's member countries. Putin is expected to attend during his visit the 12th meeting of the presidents of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization's member countries to be held in the Chinese capital. He will also meet on this occasion his Iranian counterpart Mahmoud Ahmadinejad. The Russian Foreign Ministry has declared that Deputy Foreign Minister Gennady Gatilov affirmed during talks with UN Special Envoy to Syria Kofi Annan in Geneva yesterday that Annan's plan was the only basis for a political solution to the crisis in Syria, and the world community should coordinate efforts to get this plan comprehensively implemented. In a statement, the Russian Foreign Ministry added that Gatilov discussed with Annan the situation in Syria and the prospects of a political settlement for the crisis, stressing that all foreign players who had to do with the Syrian situation should coordinate efforts to help solve the crisis. Gatilov pointed out that Russia, on its part, was conducting effective efforts with the Syrian authorities and various groups of the opposition to bring them to a political dialogue to reform the political system of the country, adding that the countries which influence the opposition should work in this way too. The statement expressed Russia's readiness to cooperate with international partners to discuss the possible formulas for external contribution to the implementation of Annan's peaceful plan, and this included increasing the effectiveness of UN observers' mission. The statement added that Annan supported such ideas and voiced readiness to continue close contacts with the Russian representatives in order to reach a political settlement in Syria. An armed terrorist group attacked the car of Brigadier General Anwar al-Saqqa of the Palestinian Liberation Army while he was escorting his daughter to school to submit her exam in Barza near Damascus. The armed terrorist group planted an explosive device under al-Saqqa's car and detonated in the area, killing him and wounding his daughter and his driver, who were taken to hospital. An armed terrorist group assassinated Colonel Engineer Ahmed Abdul Qadir Haj Khattab in the city of Deir Ezzor. A news source and the governorate pointed out that two terrorists riding a motorcycle opened fire at Colonel Khattab in front of his house in Al Qusur neighborhood in the city, causing his immediate death. Another terrorist group assassinated Lieutenant Azzeddin Abdullah Swaydan moments after he left a passenger bus in the garage of Borside neighborhood. Colonel Swaydan was coming back from his home in the coastal region. Lieutenant Colonel Engineer Dr. Muhammad Amin Aslan was kidnapped by an armed terrorist group as he was heading to his work on Damascus highway. Jordanian security authorities arrested two Jordanian men who belonged to the so-called Salafi current as they were attempting to infiltrate into the Syrian territories. Jordanian security sources said that Jordanian authorities arrested on Sunday the two Jordanians as they were trying to leave Jordan illegally. The source acknowledged that the two men were on their way to Syria to take part in what the terrorists Salafis call jihad. On the 45th anniversary of the June aggression, the inhabitants of the occupied Syrian Golan have called for making and marking the occasion as a turning point for successive generations to exert further effort to accomplish the march of liberation with more determination to hold on to rights and continue struggle until the full liberation of the occupied Golan and its return to its motherland Syria.
The ongoing Israeli violations in the occupied Golan and the occupied Arab lands have failed to weaken the Golan inhabitants' determination to continue their struggle against the Zionist occupiers who are committing the ugliest crimes against humanity and perpetrated all forms of violations that include the mandatory deportation of citizens, the destruction of cities, villages, and farms, the establishments of settlements on the ruins, and the plundering of the water, natural resources, and historical pieces. The people of the occupied Golan have been resolved that the Zionist war machinery, which rendered hundreds of thousands of Golan citizens homeless and destroyed more than 240 farms, villages, and towns, would even make them more determined to confront the occupation regardless of its power, arrogance, and racism, and no matter how suppressive its terror measures may be. The statement issued by the Golan inhabitants on this occasion stressed their support for the comprehensive reform program led by President Bashar al-Assad and for the national dialogue in Syria until the Golan is liberated and returned to the national sovereignty. It is to be noted that the Zionist entity occupied the Syrian Golan in the wake of the June 1967 aggression. 131,000 people were rendered homeless, whose number rose to 500,000 according to the 2010 statistics. In the year 1967, 7,000 people remained inside the occupied part of the Golan in the villages of Majd al-Shams, Mas'ada, Ain Kina, Al-Ghajar, and Grata. Their number now is estimated at 25,000. 137 villages came under the occupation, in addition to 112 farms and 2 cities, Al-Qunaytara and Fiq. In 1974, Al-Qunaytara city was liberated, as well as several farms, villages, and towns. The area liberated is estimated to be the third of the whole area of the Qunaytara governorate.
Schools across Syria receive today students of the intermediate level who seek to take their final exams. The students asserted that they submit their exams in a calm and stable atmosphere. We do apologize for the technical error, and we go now to the latest market and business news with Radio Krikorian after a short break.